Here's Prescott, just throws it deep as far as his arm can take him. He caught it!
Micah Parsons on the move. Micah Parsons is in! Welcome to the big show, Tony Pollard.
Oh, going deep, it is intercepted.
But I'm not going to say a word, but I will say one thing right now.
Prescott, touchdown. Good protection, and the pass wide open. Touchdown, Lamb.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It's Space Cowboy here with another video for you guys here today, and we have finally made it. The NFL season is right around the corner. In fact, this upcoming Thursday is the kickoff of the 2023 NFL season, and then a couple short days later, our Dallas Cowboys will be traveling to New Jersey to the Meadowlands to take on those New York Giants on Sunday Night Football. Really exciting stuff, regardless if you're a Cowboys fan watching this or not. The fact of the matter is football is going to be back. We're going to have a ton of stuff to talk about until it ends in February. I'm just pumped that football season's finally back. I hope you are as well. Now, what are we doing here today? Well, what we're going to be doing is the official season prediction video I do every single year. Now that we know what the 53-man roster looks like for the Dallas Cowboys, we're going to go through each game this season. I'm going to give my thoughts on how I feel like the season's going to go, what are my overall expectations, and all that other stuff. Now, before we get into it, if you could do me a favor, please hit the like button. That would be greatly appreciated to show support and also fight against the YouTube algorithm. Second, subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell and stick around for all of football season, because I'm telling you right now, I think that this is going to be a fantastic football year, and not just for the Cowboys. I think in general we're going to have a ton of stuff to talk about. So please make sure to subscribe and don't miss out by hitting that notification bell. So we're going to go through each game. I'm going to have everything timestamped for you once I get this all edited and stuff like that. And then what we're going to do is just podcast style go through each of the games. If you want to skip around to hear my thoughts on each game, by all means. But let's go ahead and get things started as I pulled up the schedule on my other monitor, and we have, of course, the first game of the season. It's the Sunday night game against the Giants, and some interesting stuff that I put out on Twitter or X, however you wish to call it. The first thing is that the Dallas Cowboys, with Dak Prescott at the helm, are on a 10-game win streak versus the New York Giants. The New York Giants, since 2016, have only had one victory versus the Dallas Cowboys, and that was the season finale in 2020. Otherwise, the Cowboys have pretty much dominated the Giants since then. Another interesting tidbit is that the Dallas Cowboys under Mike McCarthy have not won a Week 1 matchup since he's been the coach. And I believe every single matchup's been a Sunday Night Football game, if I recall, or, the primetime game. And it's just funny how things are right now. So I guess the big question is how do I feel about the Giants as a team right now matching up against this Cowboys team? Now, at the end of the day, I do think that the Giants are moving in the right direction. They've been making good personnel decisions. I think that Brian Daboll has been a great fit for that organization, and I think that Daniel Jones will continue to grow under his tutelage. However, I do think they're about a year, maybe two, away from serious NFC East title contention, and that's no insult to them. I just think they need a little bit more, and who knows, maybe they actually are able to do it this year. They're definitely not a pushover from the previous years with the Dave Gettleman era, so I don't think this is going to be an easy win by any stretch of the imagination. However, I have to go off of what history shows, and Dak Prescott will continue to win against the New York Giants until otherwise noted. I have the Cowboys winning Week 1 and opening up 1-0 for the first time in the Mike McCarthy era, so we're going to go ahead and log that down as a win. Next, we move on to Week 2 in the home opener. We have the New York Jets coming to town, so we're facing both New York teams in the first 2 weeks of the season. And guess what? Two things that are negatively impacting the Cowboys here. The first thing is they have not beaten the Jets since 2007, but more notably, they have Aaron Rodgers, which the Cowboys have only beaten twice in his entire career, I believe in 2008 and 2016 in the regular season. So there's that. And I believe he is undefeated at AT&T Stadium as well. So that's not a really good sign. And on top of that, this Jets team looks pretty good. I think that it's just going to come down to how does Aaron Rodgers look, because last year he looked a bit off than what we usually see. And I think that that's really going to impact the Jets' chances of going all the way this year or being a serious contender. If he cannot perform up to par, it's going to be a long road ahead of them. But I do think, however, that the Jets will beat the Cowboys in week 2. I think that, until otherwise noted, similar to how I said with the Giants, unless we see something different, I'm going to have to go with history, and I think that the Jets will beat the Cowboys, and the season will start off 1-1 for the Cowboys. Next, moving on to week 3, we have the Cowboys traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, and I don't think this needs a lot of elaboration or talking about this matchup. Why? Because it's clear as day. The Cardinals are tanking. Jonathan Gannon looks like he can't even motivate a wet paper towel. And on top of that, you just look at that roster and it just doesn't really look good by any stretch of the imagination. So I do believe that the Cowboys should take care of business versus the Cardinals. Now, history says that they've only beaten the Cardinals once out of the last 7 matchups that they've played. But I think that given with how early this game is into their schedule and where the Cardinals are currently at, I think they'll take care of business and beat the Cardinals and move to 2-1. Next, you have the Patriots traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, and this is the return of Ezekiel Elliott, who is with the Patriots. And I look at that Patriots team, and I think that they're one of those squads where it's like, they're solid, but it doesn't really feel like they can move the needle either way. I think that they're in that limbo of being a 9-8, 8-9 team that really needs a sense of direction. Ever since Tom Brady left, it's really just been like they're trying to muster something together. It is what it is. I don't think that it's going to be an easy matchup for the Cowboys. However, I think that they should beat the Patriots at home. I wouldn't be shocked if this was a game they dropped because, you always have those what the hell losses. That definitely happened last year. We remember some of those games. But I think that the Cowboys, in terms of when I look at how they match up against the Patriots, I think they have enough firepower to really hold their own. I think when you look at the Patriots offensively, the only weapons they really have are Juju Smith-Schuster. I know that Zeke's there, but, you have Ramondre Stevenson, Mac Jones. I don't know where he's going to be at. It just doesn't look very well for the Patriots, so I think I'm going to take the Cowboys here. Next, we move on to the next Sunday night game that the Cowboys play, and that's in Santa Clara versus the San Francisco 49ers. So what's interesting here is that the Dallas Cowboys, in terms of any regular season matchup with Dak Prescott at the helm, they've beaten the 49ers, but in the postseason it's been the opposite. I think that if we go off of this history, the Cowboys should be able to win this game, but I think what's going to be interesting is as we're approaching this matchup, seeing how Brock Purdy looks, seeing how that team looks, especially if Nick Bosa is not on the football field. I think he will be there at that point in time, and I think that the 49ers will win that game, and again, until otherwise noted. But I just think it's interesting because if Nick Bosa isn't there, and you look at that quarterback situation, they gave us Trey Lance in that trade, I think that if the 49ers quarterback-wise are not in a good spot or someone gets hurt, it can really look bad. I think that though they have a very talented roster, they got Christian McCaffrey, of course Brandon Ayuk, you have Deebo Samuel, you also have all those dudes on defense. I think that they're still a very formidable team in the NFC. I think that this would be a huge matchup for the Cowboys. If they win this matchup, that's a huge tiebreaker to have versus the 49ers, but I do have the Cowboys losing to the 49ers here. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. So 3-2 for the Cowboys. Next, here we go. Monday Night Football against the LA Chargers and Kellen Moore versus Mike McCarthy. Oh my goodness, this should be fun. When I look at the matchups between the Cowboys and the Chargers, the Cowboys were on a 3-game losing streak until they beat them in 2021, but I'm really excited for this matchup. I think this would speak volumes for who made the right call. Like, did we make the right call moving on from Kellen? I think we did. I'm not trying to pose that question seriously. But I think that given with where the Chargers are at, I think that this is a fairly even matchup. But I'm going to take the Cowboys here. I think that the Cowboys defensively are better than the Chargers. I think that the Cowboys can match the Chargers point for point on offense. And I think you look at the matchup last year, and it was really close. I think that they really were in a situation where it was the last person to make a mistake pretty much lost them the game, and we remember what happened. I think it was DeMonte Casey who had an interception in the end zone, which was brutal for the Chargers. But, that has no bearing on this year. However, I'm going to take the Cowboys to beat the Chargers this go-around. I think it would be funny if the Chargers were leading by 2 scores and then the Cowboys came back and won because of situational football. But I'm going to take the Cowboys to win that game. That's another, hey, I could see the Cowboys losing that game, but it is what it is. Then the Cowboys move into the bye week at 4-2, and then they come out to play the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I don't think the Rams are going to be a pushover because I don't think they'll be as hurt as they were last year. But I do think that with Cooper Kupp having the setback and his injury, it's going to be very intriguing to see how things pan out. Because of where we're positioned at, we're about halfway through the season. We'll see if he comes back for this matchup. But even looking at the Rams roster, I don't see anybody specifically I'm worried about. I think that defensively they have regressed. And, again, I don't really see a way where the Cowboys lose this game. And I believe this is just a 1 o'clock game. It is. But I think that either way, I think that the Cowboys are in a much better position than the Rams. I think the Rams will be solid this year. I wouldn't be shocked if they were in the mix for the postseason, but I have the Cowboys beating the Rams at home. Then we have another primetime matchup. This is the 4 o'clock game on Sunday between the Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. And depending on how well the Eagles look at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if, I don't know if they could flex at the Sunday Night Football that early on, but they should. So I'm hoping that both Dak and Hurts are healthy for another matchup because it's going to be real fun to see those two finally play fully healthy, aside from the one blowout game they had in the Monday night game back in 2021. But I think that the Cowboys and Eagles will split. I think that, however, the Eagles having all those question marks on defense is something to be worried about. You lose both your coordinators. That isn't good either. Offensively, they're pretty much intact, to say the least. I don't think that there's any question marks there. We'll see how Jalen Hurts continues to improve his game. I think he will. But I would be worried defensively if I was the Eagles, especially with the Cowboys having with what they have on offense. But in this sense, I would have to wait and see for how the Eagles are looking to really gauge this matchup once we get there. But I'm going to say the Eagles win the first matchup. However, this is what I will say. If the Dallas Cowboys do win the first game, I think they're going to sweep them. I think that the game in Dallas, the Cowboys will win regardless. But this game is going to be huge nonetheless. Then you move on to the second matchup versus the Giants. And I think that, again, the Cowboys should take care of business this go around. The Cowboys have been very good at home. And look, you have the harder matchups on the road. I think that applies to all your division opponents. And I think that if the Cowboys can win that first game on the road, I believe that they should move in to sweep their opponent. And I could be wrong, but I think that the Cowboys will take care of the Giants, and they will be 6-3 on the year. Next, we have the matchup against the Carolina Panthers, and looking at the history between these two teams, as we know, the last time we played the Panthers was at home, and they were kind of giving us a run for their money because Sam Darnold looked like Michael Vick, and we just kind of handled business after that. I think that while Bryce Young is still, coming into this league, it will be further in the year. I'm just looking at that team, and they're in a rebuild mode. I think the Cowboys should be able to take care of business. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a what-the-hell loss because you're expected to have those, but with that being said, I do think that the Cowboys will win versus the Panthers, moving to 7-3 on the year. Next, you move to, guess what? Thanksgiving, you're playing against the Washington Commanders, and I'm really curious to see what this game's being broadcasted on, because the reason I mention that is the Cowboys have had an interesting situation to where if the game is on CBS, they'll lose. But if the game is on Fox, they usually win. I said that last year, and like, hey, they should win this game just going off of history. Usually in the Dak Prescott era, when it's been on Fox, they win, but when it's on CBS, they lose. And it's on CBS. Great. So if I'm going off of that history, I'm going to have the Cowboys losing to the Commanders in this matchup. Again, I'm just going off of history, saying, oh, Space, this sounds so stupid. But listen, man, trends are trends, and I'm trying to kind of follow along. And that's probably the what the hell loss. Maybe the Commanders are kind of just fledgling around, and the Cowboys just kind of come into this matchup, and they're like, oops, all berries, and they lose. But all that being said, I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys drop the game on Thanksgiving. Next, we move to another Thursday night game. This is against the Seattle Seahawks, and this is at home. I think the Cowboys will beat the Seahawks at home. I don't think the Seahawks are bad. However, I don't know. Geno kind of has to really showcase himself again. I'm not doubting the dude. I think that he's good, but the way that I look at how Geno Smith looks, I mean, can he replicate it for another year? We'll see that. And then on top of that, are they going to regress? All this other stuff. So there's that. Then we play the Eagles, and this is the Sunday night game. I think that the Cowboys beat them there. Then we have the Cowboys taking on the Bills. I was looking at the history there. The Cowboys have not beaten the Bills since 2011. And I think that the Cowboys will lose to the Bills on this game. This is a 4:25 game. So I think that that's the case there. So where are we at? We are at 9-5, excuse me. Then we have the Cowboys playing against Miami. I think that the Cowboys will beat the Dolphins. We've beaten the Dolphins 4 times in a row. Really, if you want to stretch it out, the only time that we've lost the Dolphins was back in 2003. So I'm going to continue going off of that history there. Next, we have the Cowboys taking on the Lions at home on a Saturday game. This is a Saturday night game. And looking at the history here with the Detroit Lions, the Cowboys haven't lost to Detroit since 2013, and the last time they lost at home was in 2011 against the Detroit Lions. So I'm going to take the Cowboys to beat Detroit there, and then we have the Cowboys taking on the Commanders in the last game of the year, and I think the Cowboys win that. So where does that put the Cowboys? Puts them at a 12-5 record, and I think that with the 12-5 record, that should be enough to win the NFC East this go-around. I wouldn't be shocked if it's like a tiebreaker situation, but what are the expectations now? So if the Cowboys do manage to win between 10 to 13 games, you know, even if they make the postseason, what's the expectation? Well, it depends on what the other teams look like. I think that it's fair to say that the Dallas Cowboys are a team where they are primed to make a postseason run at minimum to the NFC Championship game. I know it's hard, and I understand that not everything's a given, and also on top of that, this is assuming everybody remains healthy and there's no issues along the way. I mean, I look at the rest of these teams. Realistically, the only 2 teams in front of them are the 49ers and the Eagles. And I think that if the Cowboys can beat the 49ers or they can beat the Eagles in a sweep, that would really help them in that case. You know, you have the sneaky teams like the Commanders and the Giants kind of waiting in the wings. But I think the Cowboys will go between maybe, I'm going to say between 11 and 13 wins. I don't think that that's far-fetched. I think that if it's anything less than that, it's really going to depend on what's the real cause of that. So that's my prediction, and what's interesting is that the Cowboys have not had 3 straight 12-win seasons since the 90s, so we'll see how that goes there. I mean, tell me what you guys think. Do you think that I'm being too optimistic? Do you think that that's just right? Do you think that they'll do better than what I think? Tell me down below. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say. So with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.